GBR Street Gang. We request airstrike mission. Coordinates AG47, crash JP Morgan, buy silver. Over.
As Mayor Amschel Rothschild said, I care not which puppet sits upon the throne of England. The man who controls England is the man who controls the money supply, and I control the money supply. And these are words to give careful consideration to, folks, because the human race really does need to wake up to how much it's being scammed by a small money cartel. And you see, folks, this is why non-compliance is so important. When you understand how this system works, when you really step back and look at it, it's absolutely ridiculous that people go along with it. As Andrew Jackson said, if people ever understood the rank injustice of the banking and monetary system, there'd be a revolution before morning. And we don't need a revolution, we need an evolution of consciousness. We need people to change their way of thinking. We need people to understand these issues and simply stop complying with it. You see, when I talk about how corrupt this system is and the need to change it, you've got to understand I'm not talking about bringing down governments. I'm not interested in overthrowing any governments. I'm simply interested in instituting honest government. I mean, obviously we need some form of government. We need some group of elders, some council, something that's going to look after infrastructure and make sure we've got roads and make sure the rubbish is picked up and the trains run on time. But we don't need people in government who insist on allowing the population to be enslaved to this ridiculous monetary system. I mean, it's absolutely absurd.
Hi, this is Max Keiser, host of the Keiser Report. I want to talk to you about this global viral campaign, Crash JP Morgan, Buy Silver. The fact is that JP Morgan is a huge player in the derivatives market. They've got a balance sheet exposure of something like $1.5 trillion. A lot of that is tied to their silver shorts. That is to say, they have sold silver contracts that don't exist. They're engaged in naked short selling. This is a form of counterfeiting. Huge hedge funds around the world are buying lots of silver because they know that if they force JP Morgan to have to buy silver in the open market, they're going to make money. So what I'm saying is you can piggyback on these huge players. All you need to do is buy one silver coin, maybe two silver coins, demand physical delivery of that silver, thus forcing JP Morgan and these other financial terrorists to have to cover their negative bets and put a company like JP Morgan basically forcing them into bankruptcy because there's no way they can cover their liabilities if we all buy one silver coin and demand physical delivery. Put JP Morgan, a financial terrorist, out of business. Buy silver.
Europe, and I believe December 11th is what's being called here in the States Silver Bullet Day. And this is a story we didn't get to cover while we were on a break from New World Next Week, and that's killing JP Morgan with silver bullets. And again, we'll give folks all the links to flesh all of this out. We can't get into all the minutia right here, but essentially, JP Morgan is short on silver, and if we buy a bunch of silver, we could hurt them very seriously. James?
Right, exactly. And now it looks like JP Morgan is trying to corner the silver market to cover their shorts, and that's going to just drive up the price of silver. So it's win-win-win-win for anyone who's actually buying physical silver right now, because it's only going up and it's a good store of value. So, and it's something that everyone can afford, unlike gold, which is obviously a lot pricier. So it's a great way of fighting back against the system, using its own tools against it, which is a smart way of fighting back.
Krieger, Keiser 1, JP Morgan 0.
That's right. Zero Hedge picked up on this. The wholesale market for silver is dried up because of the campaign to decimate JP Morgan by exposing their multi-billion-dollar silver position that they're holding short on their books. Every penny of the price of silver that goes up, JP Morgan comes closer to being extinct. And I liken this to that scene in Star Wars. Remember when Luke Skywalker, he's flying into the Death Star, and he has to hit that exact little spot in the Death Star to explode the Death Star. That little spot is the vulnerability of the global banking system. That's the one little spot that holds together the entire global banking system. If that were to explode and the price of silver go to $50, $60, $70, then JP Morgan and the U.S. government and the Federal Reserve Bank in Washington explode like the Death Star in Star Wars. So we all must let the Force guide us. Let the Force help us in getting the price of silver to $50, $60, $70. So we put the Death Star of JP Morgan out of business, Federal Reserve out of business.
Well, and of course, who's paying for the banking fraud crisis in Ireland? Ireland austerity plan to cost Irish households £3,000. Now, this is just in taxes and new taxes, which will be introduced to all the way. Everybody will now have to pay taxes, even very low income people. So up until now, 50% of the population didn't even have to pay taxes because they earned so little, but even they'll be taxed. But
yeah, wait a minute. If you're charging people tax who earn no income, that's not a tax. That's indentured servitude. That's not a tax regime. That's a slave regime. It's so sad in Ireland. I saw a report a few days ago that even the horses in Ireland are dying off from starvation. Here's a country that, they love their horses and their horse races. They can't even afford to keep these animals alive. They're running around the countryside and starving to death. I mean, this is the state of Ireland today.
Now, folks, you can go down the rabbit hole if you want. You can start pointing fingers if you want. You can blame the Jews, blame the Jesuits, blame the Vatican, blame the Illuminati, blame whoever you want. But don't do it as a way of avoiding responsibility, because the people who are responsible for this situation are us. Now, I've just explained to you how it all works. So you ask yourself from this point on, do you choose to go on with this system? Do you choose to remain enslaved to this cartel? And if the answer to that is no, then start spreading information to people. Start helping people become aware of how the world is run.
And makes the argument that silver is, at best, in stage 2 of its bull run. Like some of my other videos, it talks about the fact that silver has a long way to go before it even hits stage 3. And when it does hit stage 3, some interesting things will happen. The article makes the argument that with gold at $5,000 an ounce, silver to gold ratio of 45-1 would put silver at $111 an ounce, and using gold at $5,000 an ounce and putting the silver ratio back down to its historical mean at 14-1 puts silver at $357 an ounce. Now, however, there's many people out there stating that gold could easily go over $10,000 an ounce. I can give you a list of names real quick. Some of those folks are Mike Maloney, Howard Katz, Jim Rickards, Roland Watson, Arnold Bach. Porter Stansberry says it's going to 10,000 by 2012. Where's James Turk? James Turk is saying $8,000 by 2015. So just to give you some perspective here, $10,000 an ounce gold, at $10,000 an ounce for gold, using the silver-gold ratio of 66-1, which it's currently at, puts silver at $150 an ounce. However, silver, as we all know, is even more rare now than gold. There's less of it on the face of the planet for you to go out and buy. There's actually more gold reserves than silver reserves. And if we put the gold ratio to silver at 45-1, at $10,000 an ounce gold, we get $222 an ounce for silver. However, if silver goes back to 14 or 15-1, we're looking at $714 an ounce for silver. Well, you can do the math. Buy some silver, buy the physical, and let's ride out the storm. Thanks, guys.
You're going down, JP Morgan. Your revolution is over. Your days are numbered. The truth is freedom. Don't you forget that.